Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for His Worshipful the Mayor of Tamworth.
Right, fellow councillors, officers of the council, members of the public sat at the back, and to anybody watching at home, welcome to the extraordinary council meeting of Tamworth Borough Council on the 23rd of September 2025. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and is being recorded. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Marie Bailey. Are there any further apologies? None. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any interest that they need to declare here today? There being no declared interests, item 3 is to receive any announcements from the Mayor, Leader, members of the Cabinet or the Chief Executive. I have no announcements to make at this meeting. Chief Executive, do you have anything? Nothing from the Leader. Anyone in the Cabinet have any announcements they wish to make? There is one request that I've had for an announcement. Councillor Statham wants to make an announcement about Tamworth Calls It Out. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Friday marked the start of Tamworth Calls It Out, which is a campaign led by Women's Voices Tamworth, and we had the Safer Nights partnership in the town centre, speaking to members of the public about how they can stay safe in our town. The campaign's being supported by councillors across the chamber, and I want to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues and for their continued guidance and support. We've also been working alongside officers at the council and Tamworth Police to pull this together as well, so I want to extend my thanks to them for the work that they've been doing. Over the next 6 weeks, we'll be calling on hospitality venues, sports clubs and schools to sign our commitment charters and to dedicate their support to creating a safe space for women and girls. Prior to the campaign starting, we ran a survey that showed that nearly 40% of respondents don't feel safe in Tamworth at night. It also found that 30% had experienced harassment, sexism or inappropriate behaviour in our town in the last 12 months, and a further 32% have been witness to this. 53% of respondents stated that sexism, harassment or violence against women and girls is rarely spoken about in Tamworth. So these statistics support the reasoning behind this campaign and show that something needs to change. We'll be running a number of events up until the 31st of October, which will involve education, empowerment, sports and activities. And to find out more, you can head to the Women's Voices Facebook page. I've also requested from all councillors today a video of them stating why they'd like to support the campaign for a media piece. I've asked if I can have that by next Friday. That would be great to have the support of all members from all parties. Together, we can work to empower women and girls in Tamworth and help them feel safer. And I hope you can all support this campaign as it continues into October. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. This is a really important initiative, and it is crucial that so many people feel safer in our town centre than is the case at the moment. So thank you for all you've done, Councillor Statham, and thank you for the support of other councillors for that initiative. And please do sign up and do the videos. I'm not great at videos, but I'll have a go. Okay, let's turn now to the substantive item on today's agenda, which is a motion on notice. The notice was duly given in accordance with procedure rule number 4.1, and I have considered it to be a proper rule. So I will hand over now to Councillor Richard Kingston to introduce the motion. Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where do we begin? Well, This motion, duly presented by the 5 of us in the independent group, is not necessarily just about fireworks. This motion, Mr. Mayor, is about fairness, openness and transparency. It's a really simple motion that has several elements to it. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I will read from the motion so that all members are aware, all members of the public in the gallery are aware, and those watching at home are aware. We're asking that the Council notes that the annual fireworks display in Tamworth has been one of the most popular civic events in the borough, attracting thousands of residents and visitors to the town each year. Also to note that the Labour administration has announced that from November 25 the event will be relocated, or prior to the announcement was going to be relocated, to Stapfold Country Park and delivered in partnership with a private events company. Also to note that this decision was taken without prior consultation with residents, councillors or town centre businesses. Concerns have been raised that Martin's Law has been used as a justification for the relocation, implying that the castle grounds may no longer be considered suitable for large-scale public events. And this council notes that the relocation will have a negative impact on town centre traders who rely on the footfall generated by the event. We also ask that this Borough Council believes that major civic events should not be removed from the town centre without full consultation and debate, and that Tamworth's identity and traditions are tied to its historic centre, and these should be preserved wherever possible, and that public transparency, open procurement processes and meaningful engagement with residents must, moving forwards, be central to decision making. Therefore, the crux of the motion is that this council resolves to request a full and detailed report on the decision to relocate the fireworks event, including the consultation process or lack thereof with councillors, residents and businesses, the risk assessments undertaken regarding the castle grounds and in particular Martin's Law, the procurement process for selecting Stapfold Country Park and Laughing Bulldog Events Limited, and the projected financial impact on the town centre traders. Number 2, to instruct Cabinet to reconsider the relocation decision in light of this report and to bring forward alternative options that keeps the firework event in the town centre wherever possible. And 3, to ensure that all future major civic events undergo proper consultation with councillors and residents before any decision made. Now, I should have thought some months ago, well probably 2 or 3 years ago, when the now leader of the council started to question the validity of the fireworks display when she was leader of the opposition. We find out from town centre traders that there is a rumour that the fireworks have been cancelled, moved. The rest of the councillors on this side of the chamber had no idea about that. Residents had no idea about that. Businesses had no idea about that. If a major decision of that scale, which is going to impact Tamworth residents and Tamworth businesses, then we on this side, or the 5 of us here, have no issue in reviewing an event if it needs it. We have no issue in going through the process of saying, hang on a minute guys, we've got some new legislation coming in and we need to think about this. That is what this is about. It's about arrogance. It's about taking decisions without proper consultation, and it's about taking decisions without considering the impact on the wider community. We on this side of the chamber wrote an open letter to residents setting out what is basically in that motion. We want, the 5 of us, to reassure the residents of Tamworth that their voice is heard, that it does matter. And by calling this debate and by putting forward this motion, we can try and repair some of the damage. And we can try and ensure that the report that we're asking for on the decision-making process allows Cabinet to reflect and to make an appropriate decision. I think we're out of the realms of trying to organise anything for 2025. We have to accept that. But 2026 is coming up, and we could still look at hosting an event in the castle grounds if everything can be factored in. The five of us here have done an awful amount of research into Martin's Law and finances and the various jurisdictions and legal sides of it available. We're confident that there was no need to cancel the event. I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor, and reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. I took advice on the procedures for today before we set out. There is an allowance now for questions to the proposer of the motion, as I understand it. Are there any questions to the proposer of the motion? My apologies, we need a seconder for your motion, Councillor Kingston. Councillor Clements, thank you very much.
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor, and reserve the right.
Yep. That's it then. If there are no questions, we can move now to debate of the motion. Rule 14.3. Yeah, I just want to finish this bit here if I can. Rule 14.3 on the content and length of speeches must be direct to the question, under discussion, or to a personal explanation or point of order. Can I also remind members that adherence to the Nolan principles and the way that we conduct ourselves is a really important factor in today's debate. Okay, looking now, who wants to make a first point in the debate? Councillor Summers.
Mr. Mayor, actually I'd like to bring a motion without notice to suspend standing orders, and the reason being is because this won't be a debate unless we do. This will be a group of people in the chamber who are standing up, making a statement, sitting back down again. There won't be any chance for them to respond to any points that are made by other councillors. I think if you're going to have a debate, as I tried last time, then we should be suspending standing orders to allow us to speak and respond. So I'm looking for support on that, if anybody will give that. Thank you.
That's been seconded by Councillor Kingston. Can I just take advice on that for a moment? So I'm informed that we can now move to a vote on the suspension of standing orders to allow that to happen. Is that right? Okay. Does it need any further debate?
No, there's no debate. It's now just for members to vote on whether they support the proposal to suspend standing orders.
So that we can now move to a vote on the proposal to suspend standing orders. All those in favour of that motion, please show. All those against, please show. Any abstentions? So that motion is defeated. So we can now move on to the debate as listed. Is there anyone who wishes to contribute to the debates? Councillor Smith.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to say I think it's absolutely outrageous that you're not prepared to answer questions. I actually was in your position 2 years ago in the extraordinary debate in 2023 in regards to leaseholders, and I was absolutely happy to answer questions. I thought it was good for transparency and for decency, to be quite honest. So I think it's quite shocking that you've not prepared to sit here and actually just answer questions that we all genuinely have. Nonetheless, I'll read out my my part on this. So, this year's fireworks fiasco is a textbook example of poor leadership, lack of transparency, and chaos in decision making. For many years, our fireworks display has been the jewel in the crown of Tamworth's events calendar. Families gathered in the castle grounds, our businesses thrived on the footfall, and a community came together in the heart of the town. But this was never just about fireworks. This was Tamworth residents. This night is a moment on the calendar, something people genuinely look forward to. Families wrap up warm, children are filled with excitement, and neighbours come together. To lose it is not just to lose a spectacle, but to lose an experience that supports community spirit and residents' well-being. Taking that away without thought or consultation has left people feeling unheard, dismissed, and even insulted. And then there is the impact on businesses. Events like this bring in a sudden, powerful burst of footfall in the town centre. You can't always quantify it neatly on a spreadsheet, but traders know it, shopkeepers know it, and our hospitality sector knows it. These moments matter. They provide vital income in a difficult economy. Yet this administration gave no thought for that reality. It is simply not in the Labour psyche to consider business impacts. Their mindset is not business orientated, and it shows. They saw costs on a balance sheet but ignored the value of prosperity flowing into the local shops, pubs and restaurants. And now our traders, many already struggling, have been left high and dry. What did we get instead? A decision taken behind closed doors, announced suddenly through a press release with no consultation with councillors, residents or traders. A move to Statfold Country Park, a site that in almost all practical circumstances requires car travel, transforming a free, inclusive event into a paid, ticketed show. And when residents rightly objected, the council doubled down, justifying the move with Martin's Law, a claim we now know was misleading at best. Martin's Law does not ban events in open spaces. It requires proportionate risk assessments and sensible security planning. Other towns are preparing to comply. Tamworth, under Labour's leadership, used it as an excuse. The result, confusion, anger, and ultimately cancellation. Not just relocation, but no fireworks at all. The people of Tamworth were denied their celebration. Our residents lost a tradition that brought joy and belonging. Our town centre businesses lost vital trade, and our council lost credibility. The Labour cabinet even tried to shift blame onto residents, the very people they serve, claiming community reaction forced their hand. But the truth is clear: poor planning, no consultation, and political arrogance caused this disaster. It was not the people of Tamworth who failed, it was the Labour leadership. We now face reputational damage. Our town, which should be in the news for its heritage and strong community spirit, is instead in the press for chaos, confusion and cancellation. That is unforgivable. Tamworth deserves better. Major events must never be tampered with without open consultation, proper planning and respect for our residents. We need transparency, not secrecy, competence, not chaos, and leadership that puts Tamworth first, not last. I call for accountability, I call for answers, and I call for a firm commitment that never again will decisions of this magnitude be taken behind closed doors. Our residents deserve their traditions back. They deserve fireworks in their town centre, and they deserve thriving businesses that benefit from these occasions. And above all, they deserve a council they can trust. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Summers.
Thought there were other people before me. Thank you. Yeah, what a shame that we can't have a proper debate, but what a surprise, I say sarcastically. You get this with a Labour government and a Labour council. You get things done to you, and you will suck it up and like it. And that is where we are. The Conservatives said this would happen, and it's happened. And I am quite surprised, to be quite honest, that we've kind of accepted the fact that we're not having any fireworks this year. I do wonder, given that the money was apparently in the budget and preparations would have been made, and given that the event was only switched at the very last minute to Statfold, whether preparations were actually in place in the first place, whether this was actually all intended to happen, who knows. But I would actually argue that if we tried hard enough, we could have the fireworks this year and make it happen. And I think we should at least try and put that out there. We have a lot of questions we're not going to get answered, but ultimately we want the fireworks. We've only got another couple of years of being able to put these on until this council no longer exists anymore, and all of this will be, out and forgotten in a couple of years' time, sadly. So I would in fact like to suggest an amendment to the motion that we continue to hold the fireworks this year, given that all of the planning would have happened to go with it and put it on, and that this council does its very best to make sure that all the arrangements and necessary processes are in place and to put this event on this year and reinstate it. So I look for support on that, and I think Councillor Kingston has agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be more than happy to second the amendment of Councillor Summers. Do you want me to speak now on the amendment, or do you want me to reserve the right?
I think reserve the right, Councillor Kingston. Does anybody else wish to speak either on the amendment? Councillor Clark.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. This motion commits expenditure without lawful process as a key decision, so therefore it can't stand.
Thank you. Councillor Summers.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the fireworks event was already in the budget, so the expenditure was already laid out for this year.
Is there a response to that point? We're just working out what the next process needs to be. Bear with us. We have a view.
Thank you. I don't think it does fall within the definition of a key decision. As I understand it, it's not over the 100,000 threshold, and as a point has been made, there is a budget available. So my advice as monitoring officer is that the motion can proceed.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
No, just want to say thank you for my point of order. Thank you.
So the debate on the amendment can proceed. We will need proper wording for that amendment. All I've got is continue to hold it this year. That's, we need something a little more elegant than that.
I did say a little more than that, but the amendment being that this council reinstates the fireworks for this year and uses the budget that was put in the budget to facilitate that reinstatement, and make sure that there are the funds available to secure the event as required.
Thank you very much. As you say, more elegant than my wording. Any contribution on the debate on the amendment? We need a vote on it, don't we? We can't move on without it. Okay, if there are no contributions on the proposed amendment, we do need to move to a vote on that amendment. It has been seconded. So all those in favour of the amendment? Fair enough. Do we need to do that? If 5 people ask for it, and it appears that they have. Thank you for that. So we will move to a named vote, which rather assumes I've got the names in front of me, which I haven't. Okay, I will go through, and when I announce your name, can you please state whether you are for or against, or whether you abstain? Councillor Craig Adams.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Nova Arkney.
Against.
Councillor Christopher Bain. I abstain on this one. Councillor Ben Clark.
Against.
Councillor Lee Clark.
Against.
Councillor Rosie Claymore.
For.
I was going back. Councillor Margaret Clark.
Against, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tina Clements.
For, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gareth Coates.
For, Mr Mayor.
Against.
Councillor Sarah Daniels. Councillor Carol Dean.
Against.
Councillor Stephen Doyle.
For, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Dave Foster.
Against, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Helen Hadley.
Against.
Councillor Thomas Jay. Just give him a quick call, see if he's in. Councillor Richard Kingston.
For.
Councillor Ken Norkey.
Against.
Councillor Jeremy Oates.
For.
Councillor Pat Pallett.
Against.
Councillor Ben Price.
For.
Did you say for? Councillor Lewis Smith.
Against.
Councillor Sam Smith.
For.
Councillor Martin Summers.
For.
Councillor Paul Turner.
For, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Natalie Statham.
Against.
Councillor Jan Wardrop.
For, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Andy Wells.
Against, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Lee Wood.
Against, Mr Mayor.
So the motion is defeated. So what now? We revert back to the original motion. Yeah. So we'll now carry on debate on the original motion. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Clements.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I tried to ask this question at the last council, but I was told I couldn't because we were going to discuss it tonight, so it's in my debate here. Martin's Law does not prohibit large-scale public events, including those in public spaces. It simply requires organisers of events with more than 800 people to carry out a terrorism risk assessment, provide staff training and implement proportionate security measures. So for an indoor event, for example, you would be checking people's handbags, any bags they were taking in. For outdoor events, you would make sure that there was the non-vehicular, I can't remember what they're called now, the bollards, so that there was no vehicular access, like they do in our city, at the city of Birmingham, and in many other places. I was in Wales at the weekend. They've got an event on, and they were doing exactly the same. So that leads me to wonder who made the decision to cancel it and then move it outside of Tamworth, because let's face it, Stafford is not in Tamworth. Are they trained in event management? Because I've had some source of information that tells me only 4 people across the West Midlands and Staffordshire are trained in Martin's Law and what it is about. It doesn't come in for another 2 years, so it gives councils time to implement changes. We could have perhaps trialled some of those at this year's event and next year's event to make sure that we'd got everything in the right place, but we didn't. We cancelled and moved it, and now we've cancelled it again. Well, actually, we haven't. You guys over there have. Whilst I respect the position of the Chief Executive and certainly respect Stephen himself, I take a very dim view of the statement that was put out suggesting unsavoury behaviour at these events. As you've been in post around 18 months, most of us have lived in Tamworth all our lives and have never seen this unsavoury behaviour. You might get the odd drunk walking past, but that's a Friday and a Saturday night in any town. I've attended the event for over 30 years, and the magic it brings to families is clearly seen. My own daughter is now 26, but still attends for the candy floss. I've spoken to many business owners, some of them who are in our public gallery this evening, and they're going to be losing thousands in what should have been a great event for our small businesses and our larger businesses, all the outlets that we have in our town. Their next big event is going to be Christmas. What happens if we cancel that as well? When I held the cabinet position for leisure that Councillor Lewis Smith now holds, I had regular meetings with officers and asked them questions constantly to understand their reasoning behind any decisions. And Annika Goodwin is sat not far behind me, so she will back me up on that one. I'm disappointed that there's no real debate tonight. There's no questions being asked for us to get any answers. The residents of this town deserve answers, and they're not going to get it again. We need to gain their trust. So as I've said, are we going to be cancelling Christmas again? Because I know that there's a reputable store that is selling everything Grinch if that's to happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. Does anyone else wish to speak in this debate? Councillor Ben Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start by saying that I disagree with this motion and I will be voting against it. I just want to focus on one part in particular, the suggestion that there hasn't been proper consultation. So, starting with member consultation, this decision didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was part of the £650,000 savings target agreed in the budget by this council. The review of environmental, cultural and wellbeing services went through health and wellbeing scrutiny, cabinet and appointments and staffing. Members then had multiple opportunities to feed in during the budget cycle. They had the members' budget consultation workshop on the 21st of October, the members' seminar on the 28th of October, the leaders' budget workshop on the 18th of November and joint scrutiny on the 28th of January. All councillors had the opportunity to attend. Whether they did or not that's on them. Moving on to public...
Councillor Smith, can you contain yourself, please? I did point out at the beginning that we must adhere to the Nolan principles. I'd be grateful if you would do so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On public consultation, every year we ask residents how they want us to prioritise spending. For 3 years in a row, the answer has been consistent. Focus resources on essential services and make savings on things like arts, assembly rooms and outdoor events. This year, for the first time, the survey was carried out independently and was statistically representative of the whole borough. Residents were clear. They want more money going into tackling homelessness, antisocial behaviour and improving the town, and they suggested less money should go to things like free outdoor events. In fact, one of the most common comments was, stop spending money on unnecessary things like fireworks. So, Mr. Mayor, let's be clear. Members were consulted. Residents were consulted. To stand here and claim otherwise is simply not true. The motion ignores the evidence and misleads the public. The reality is that the consultation has happened, the results are clear, and this administration is doing exactly what people have asked us to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually going to just address a single point as well. As you all be aware, I'm actually the chair of the Health and Safety Committee, and mention has been made tonight about Martin's Law, and while it is true that we don't need to implement it for the next 2 years, I think it, from our point of view, it would be resident of a council who has a duty of care to our residents to not put those things in place as soon as possible. So we on this side fully support making sure our residents, whether they be from Tamworth or outside, can attend an event in a manner that is abiding to health and safety standards. So in terms of the Martin's Law, I think, you know, addressing it now and making sure that our events are secure and safe is very important. The Castle Grounds, as it stands, is not an event that actually is easily to monitor and control, and it's that control which would mean an awful lot more expenditure would have to be put in place to mitigate those issues. We've seen in previous years that there have been a number of issues that have caused health and safety issues, and it's those areas that I particularly would be opposing in terms of voting against this motion. Could I just add on the end of that, with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, the Health and Safety Committee is chaired by myself, runs on a 6-weekly basis, and up until now, no opposition member has attended any of those meetings, although they have been invited. Hopefully that will change. Hopefully we'll see somebody from the opposition attend those meetings. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Does anyone else wish to speak to this debate? Councillor Turner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that, Councillor. It's quite appropriate that you bring up health and safety, because one thing that I'm aware of, like everybody, we all run health and safety risk assessments constantly through business, through days, your daily activities. And it's quite interesting. I've had a look through your minutes of your meetings on health and safety, and I can't see any risk assessment analysis or details or activity that's taken place regarding Martin's Law, and particularly the Castle Grounds and fireworks. So if I've missed it, please, you know, furnish me with that information and we'll all be a bit wiser. It is incumbent you as a chair and all of us as councillors, that we do communicate and publish, particularly health and safety information, to all people. We've got nothing to hide. If we've done the job right, then we should be proud of our work and respect it. As I say, this doesn't seem to me as if have the counter-terrorist people been informed and asked and contributed to any of these committee meetings that you said you've held every 6 weeks. I've not seen them on the agendas. And again, Martin's Law being applied consistently across all events. Well, we are focusing on fireworks tonight because we're all really upset, because not just the backlash that's come through, and that's caused this meeting tonight, and it has put Tamworth in a bad place, and I think we all agree with that. However, you've said that you was given the mandate by the good people of Tamworth to cut costs on events and outside events, as you alluded to, but there must be a cost of implementing all of this lot, and I don't see the balances of the plus and minuses here. Martin's Law is a very good law, and we need to take care of it going forward, but that's going forward. As for the other events, whether that's anything that's over, as you know, Martin's Law is in 2 parts, 800 people or up to 299, and different laws and regulations come in then, but it's 2 years down the line. So my question now is, also, if you're not going to hold events, and I'd like you to confirm yes or no whether this is going to stop events going forward, what are you going to do with the staff? Are you going to make them redundant? Are you going to reorganise them? Are you going to move on to, or just keep paying them? So anyway, that's my concerns with Martin's Law in particular, how it's going to be implemented, how it's going to be taken forward, and strategically, what is the strategy going forward for this council? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a point to make on the debate. However, I do want to just very briefly express how disappointed I am with some of the comments that have been made and some of the behaviour we've seen in the chamber this evening. And if people want to reflect on what they've said and attacks on individuals, that might be worth doing so. So, in terms of the fireworks and the paper in front of us, the paper that's been submitted and the speeches I've heard this evening have talked about implementation of Martin's Law, they've talked about budgets, they've talked about process. I've heard very little about outcomes. People have been wound up as to whether this question was asked or that question was asked or what consideration was being done. The bottom line is a decision was made to cancel the free firework display in the castle grounds. That's the important bit. How we got there, we could chat about all day long. They're not going to bring the fireworks back. The decision was made to cancel the free fireworks. Martin's Law is a red herring. It's a distraction. Otherwise, all the other summer events, the programme of events we've had, would have been cancelled or reconsidered. So let's just park that and get back to the cancellation of the free firework display in the castle grounds. The joining of the separate of the private event, the ticketed event at Statfold, that was done separately. The tragedy is the two decisions there that were made have ended up with a free event being cancelled and a private event being cancelled, damaging that person's or that group's business. They are there to make a profit. Their involvement with Tamworth Borough Council and linkages with the free firework display being cancelled has damaged their business. And the people in this room who are leading the council are responsible for those decisions, Mr. Mayor. We have to be aware of that. Bonfire Night is a celebration of a defeated terrorist attack on this country and the capture of Guy Fawkes and his mates, or crew. It's part of our heritage. Years ago, we decided to include a firework display in our programme of outdoor events. And we did this as part of a programme to promote civic pride, promote Tamworth, promote its tourism and promote business growth. We lumped that in with a number of other events. But it seems we've lost sight of this. St George's Day is another large event in April. And you only have to drive through any town in the country right now and see people taking it upon themselves to put St George's Cross on lampposts or whatever. And I'm not going to go into the motivations of that, but what it does show is there is a pride in our identity. St George's Day is about pride in our identity. Guy Fawkes Night is about pride in our identity and pride in the defeat of that terrorist attack. We can't airbrush national heritage. We can't airbrush national pride, Mr Mayor. And my fear is the cancellation of the fireworks and other outdoor events is a step down that road. Mr Mayor, being a councillor is about giving back to the community, despite the fact that we're all on the fiddle and everything else that's said about us. It's about giving back to the community. Balancing a budget by not doing the desirable things, it's easy. We'll just do the statutory stuff. Budget's balanced. We're redundant. Let's get out of here. Doing the difficult part is delivering the things that people enjoy. Fireworks night is one of those things that people enjoy. And I appreciate there'll be feedback that people don't enjoy it because you can't park or it's a waste of money and so on and so forth. Part of our original drivers were to have an event that people are proud of, bring people into the town centre, drive business, drive tourism, but also reduce the risks and dangers of backyard displays. We were providing universal access to a safer, high-quality display. That decision was not easy back in the 2000s because we didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. In fact, when we took control back in 2004, I think we had enough money to pay the wages bill for 6 weeks. We fought hard to get this. We fought hard to get St George's Day. We fought hard to get our programme of outdoor events. I am concerned, Mr Mayor, that as we drive towards unitaries, as we drive towards ensuring we do the statutory minimum, that we will continue to erode these things that are important to Tamworth, to its businesses, to our pride, both nationally and locally. The leading group needs to stand up and be open and accountable and say, yes, we cancelled the fireworks. Yes, we made a mistake going into partnership with a private company, and let's draw a line on it and move on. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oates. Councillor Andy Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your words, Councillor Oates. I'd like to return them, if I may. I think we need to think about why we're here, and there has been a lot of consideration tonight of why we're here, but I'd like to paint a slightly different picture, if I may, to just add some balance. I know of a resident, I know of a young woman who is dependent on a lift to gain access to the outside world. She suffers from a degenerative neurological disease. Now, to my knowledge, she has been confined to her house because of a broken lift on quite a number of occasions, on one instance up to 6 weeks. And I won't go on because we all know from knocking on doors, I'm sure we all know, we've all knocked on doors, we know of numbers of people who struggle with disability issues. So when we consider what a balanced budget means, you talked about spreadsheets and numbers and stuff. I actually think of it in terms of a compass that points me towards empathy and doing the right thing. So if that means providing bolster to the services that other people need, such as this young lady, and the services such as the Disability Facilities Grant, I'm all for that. So I just want to pick up on that point, and I won't be supporting this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Is there anyone else wish to speak on this debate? Councillor Couchman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I did have a speech prepared, but as it was a bit historical, I thought I won't repeat it. However, I do want to make 2 points. Talk about transparency. Can I remind everybody here that the previous administration decided without any consultation to take £60,000 out of reserves to make up a shortfall in the green bin charge? And also, as Councillor Smith will probably tell you straight away, there are no intentions to stop the Christmas lights nor take daytime programming events away from the castle grounds. And in his explanation, he will tell you exactly why. So I think, you know, some of the assertions that have been made by the opposition tonight have been very wide of the mark. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Couchman. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate? Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gosh, it's a bit stressful in this room tonight, isn't it? But thank you for allowing everyone to have the chance to speak. We have different views, but that's the point. We represent the different views of the people of our town. Mr. Mayor, I cannot support this motion because of the rhetoric that's around it. Fellow councillors, you know that we are here to make decisions and we consult. All the time, whatever side of the chamber you're on, we are knocking doors, speaking to residents, phone calls, emails. As a council, we've had the Let's Talk Tamworth events and the LGR events too. As a resident of Tamworth, I'm sad that the way I'm going to see fireworks in Tamworth is going to have to change. However, I can sleep at night about how that decision was come to. And I just want to say, everybody, everything you've just heard from me were a few examples of rhetoric. I've used we, I've used direct address, I've used emotive language, because my goal is to make sure that you believe in me, and that's what everyone is doing here tonight. We've heard some cracking examples of some GCSE persuasive features. From Councillor Smith, we had alliteration, that was really strong. My fellow teacher, Councillor Kingston, is great with his use of modal verbs and repetition. But it is just a way to present an opinion. So, unlike myself, I'm going to hold here, not go on and use lots of rhetoric and just talk numbers. And that's what I'd urge people to do tonight, because the numbers are not something that we can make up. We've heard from Councillor Clark that in the last 3 years of public consultation, the most popular answer to how would you cut spending would be on free outdoor events and then the budget. As part of the budget process that was approved by full council, a line was contained within the budget that identified a savings target of £650,000 across the authority. The savings, to return to what Councillor Oates said, is in part of saying what are our reasons for being here. You say statutory, I say essential services that are the reason why we're here, to support the whole town and its most vulnerable. And I'm not quoting myself here, I'm actually quoting former Councillor Danny Cook, who mentioned in 2022, when the debate was held in terms of fireworks back then, that what are we going to do when it comes down to a vulnerable or something where there are other ways in which we can make these things happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate? Councillor Lewis-Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The fireworks in the castle grounds has become a victim of its own success. It's had 24,000 people attending, and whilst that is positive, it's caused an issue for public safety, and more than anything else, the safety of the public comes first. Other events in the town, such as St George's Day and Christmas lights, are nowhere near the same scale, and therefore they do not present the same dangers, and as we've mentioned, they are still going to be going ahead. With Martin's Law, there is, as people have said, a 2-year implementation period, although that does not mean that we should not implement it now when it is to do with people's safety. As it stands, the event in the castle grounds would not be accepted under Martin's Law in its current form. The irresponsible car parking during the night leads to blocking of emergency services. Lost myself. There are many choke points which have led to people getting hurt already, with a member of staff actually having his collarbone broken, which is something that the members of the public would not be aware of. Members of staff have been hurt as a result of the crushes because there are choke points where people are all funneling through to get in and out of the event. Overcrowding has been an issue, and this is about making sure that we are a proactive council, not a reactive one, after something more serious happens. Not only is safety a huge concern, but the budget is too. As I've stated previously, the cost of the fireworks is around 70,000, not the 27,000 which has been reported on social media. That figure has no truth to it and could be found nowhere within the budget. And I'm more than happy to provide councillors and residents with the exact breakdown, and it is as follows. The event last year brought in an income of 3,400 and in catering 2,450, so bring it in 5,850 for the borough. However, the amount we spend is much higher. The expenditure is 49,800. The estimated staff time is about 16,000. Street scene for the clean-up and setting up is 4,400. For casual staff, it's 3,600. For licensing, it's 3,200. For marketing staff, it's 700. As we all know, the cost of a fireworks event is not simply purchasing the fireworks themselves, and lots more work and money goes into the process. So to break down the expenditure even more, it's $2,000 for the hiring of the toilet facilities. It's $3,250 for the first aid teams to be present. It's £20,000 for the fireworks themselves. It's £10,350 for the hiring of security. It's £1,150 for radio hire. It's £5,050 for signage. It's £4,680 for fencing. It's £3,300 on lighting and power provision, and £1,800 on a telehandler that the street scene had to hire in. £2,240 of the costs were transferred to the community safety budget, but that's also a cost the council has to pay. As you can see, there is a lot required to support the event in its previous form, but before we even move into extra costs that would be required to bring safety levels up to what we would need. Martin's Law would have required us hiring in a lot more security, more fencing, vehicle bollards, a ticket-based system so we could control the numbers of people that were coming in, whether we made those tickets free or not, and costs would start to increase to around £100,000. Even if we had all the money in the world to spend, we would have to put stricter safety procedures in place, but the problem is we do not. Members who took part in the last budget workshops would know that the council were being asked to make savings of £650,000. In a world where all services that are not legally required are up to be cut, we would be completely irresponsible to increase the already bloated events budget, which already stood at £308,000. For comparison, Lichfield have a budget of £20,000 for their events, and ours under the opposition was 15 times higher than that. Other authorities are also going through similar issues. Derby have had to cancel a fireworks event that had 3,000 attendees, and Leicester have had to cancel a Diwali event, which is huge in their city, which had 50,000 attendees. Both of those events have said that the number of attendees led to safety concerns and they could not afford to make the events safe in their current forms. Which is exactly why we tried to put on an alternative with our partnership with Laughing Bulldog. Rather than say the event was gone, that's that, we wanted to offer something great for the residents, which is exactly what it would have been. It was going to have live music, tribute acts, access to the fair, food stalls, and it was going to go on for 6 hours rather than making it a festival rather than a 30-minute event. Local businesses that you guys have spoken about were excited about taking part at this event at Statfold. They had the opportunity to sell their goods for even longer, and that's something that a lot of them were arguing on social media. To clarify as well, Tamworth Borough Council had no direct involvement in financing this event. Our only involvement was to fund the park and ride scheme to allow for people to park for free in the town centre and get an ability to ride the bus to and from the venue. And this would have also benefited the businesses that were in the town centre too, because people would have had the opportunity to go to those businesses before and after going to Statfold. We were also going to fund tickets for families on low incomes to ensure that they did not miss out, and the cancellation of this new event was a decision made by the businesses involved, and it was not a decision made by us. As a councillor has referenced in his speech, I did not say the public were responsible for the cancellation of this event because they were well within their rights to feel disappointed. I simply stated I was disheartened by the abuse that local businesses had received as a result of trying to do something positive for the town. In my opinion, the main reason why this fantastic new event had to be cancelled was due to councillors who happened to be up for election next May were politicising the issue for their own gain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I think we do need to keep in mind the Nolan principles when we're making these points. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I cannot support this motion because I do not believe it represents the opinions of all residents across Tamworth. We've heard this evening a range of evidence of public consultation, issues with safety. And even after the announcement of the cancellation, we are continuing to hear from residents that they support our decision to make a better use of taxpayers' money and that we should be prioritising the safety of the public. In fact, despite one councillor's attempt to whip up support for the opposition's misinformation campaign, the comments from the public show that not everyone is angry and disappointed with this decision. So these are just some quotes from residents directly from a member of the opposition's Facebook. The firework thing is a bit of a shame that some folks might miss out. It's a bit sad. It's not the world-ending scenario it's being made out to be, though. Quite frankly, I think £70,000 could be better spent on other things that the town needs. The capacity of the castle grounds is insufficient for an event attended by so many people. It was overcrowded, and exiting through the limited entry and exit points have never felt safe, especially in the dark. Although Martin's Law doesn't come into full effect yet, early adoption is encouraged for public safety. If there was a security incident at the fireworks in the castle grounds, everyone would be complaining about the council not taking Martin's Law into account. So the public seem to understand our reasoning, so I'm not quite sure why the members of the opposition don't. Maybe perhaps they're using this to launch their May election campaigns, and it will be difficult for them now that they can't hide under the banner of a political party. With the financial state of local authorities and new safety legislation imminent, we did our very best to provide a firework display that residents could still attend if they wish to. But the behaviour and whipping up of misinformation by the opposition is to blame for where we're at now. I do hope that the facts and figures that my colleagues have shared tonight sink in, and the opposition can walk away from this debate having a better understanding of why we made the decision we did. If they bothered to ask the right questions in the first place or attended budget workshops, maybe they wouldn't have called this meeting. Unlike them, we have made difficult decisions in power. The decades that they spent running, well, members of their group, spent running the authority, they used reserves time and time again to prop up entertainment to avoid losing the popular vote. Wasting public money so they can put pantos on for the public. And I'm not just talking about the performances at the assembly rooms. Their financial management itself was a performance, one that left this authority worse off and not better. And we won't repeat those mistakes on this side of the chamber. We will continue to take responsible decisions, even if they are difficult, because that's what residents expect of a local authority, and that's what good governance looks like. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm just going to try and okie dokie, let's get talking. So I'm not really going to go into too much of it. The only thing I want to say is just like, can we start looking at other things? Because let's face it, this display isn't going to happen. Can we look at maybe doing fireworks with the Christmas light switch on like other authorities do? You know, combining some events. It won't be the same size display, but at least it gives something back to the town. There is 2 perfect firing sites in the middle of the town. You've got the barriers as well down St Edward's Square, so you've got the terrace things. I have actually been round. I've actually done like a little risk assessment myself. I was actually qualified with the BPA, which is the British Pyrotechnic Association, so I do know what I'm talking about. There are options there, and it'll be a lot less cost. The thing with Martin's Law as well, the health and safety side, what I will say as well with that is, if you go on the council website, we're talking about health and safety, you will not see anything on there about Martin's Law, apart from the 2 press releases. If the council knew this was coming in April, why were we not communicating it out in April? With all our communications we use, social media, you know, we had St George's Day, the Kaleidoscope Festival, you know, Dine Festival. You know, we had all these festivals, but nothing was ever mentioned then about potentially these festivals could be affected by Martin's Law. You know, Kaleidoscope Festival quoted, thousands of people enjoyed this event. If we knew this was coming, why couldn't we get the comms out earlier instead of leaving it to the last minute where it affects such a great event? I mean, I had the honour last year of attending it as mayor, and I was meeting people from all over the West Midlands, and I was even chatting to the police, and they loved it. And the reason they liked it is because it brought a big group of people all in one area, and like, you know, less fireworks going through people's letterboxes because they're all enjoying a free firework display. So I'm just, like I say, it'd be nice if we could be more proactive, maybe try and look at doing some sort of fireworks for the residents, obviously maybe not at the castle grounds, but there are options there and available. I'm not, like I said, but if we're going to keep going about Martin's Law and everything, why is there nothing on the council website? Why was nothing communicated out? You know, these things should have been done in April onwards, and I think that needs to be looked at, because we're all about communication, we're all about the Nolan principles, and one of them, you know, is openness. And I'm not being funny, Martin's Law got mentioned on the 25th of August. That is not openness, that's not transparency. It should have been brought forward, and then the residents could have understood what potentially was going to happen to displays. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Coates. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate? Councillor Margaret Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question really is, who really cancelled Tamworth's fireworks display? Or should I really say, what cancelled Tamworth's fireworks display? Yes, it was at risk of being thought to be cancelled in the first place by the budgeting aspects of this council with officers. But to suggest that the 70,000 for last year's firework display is disputable is not correct. That's an insult to all the finance officers, to the arts and events officers who worked hard on it. I don't think that is an acceptable suggestion. What is unfortunate is the rhetoric that was mentioned by several councillors. We cannot deny that it happened. And when the arts and events teams were able to save the fireworks display, albeit in a different location, albeit, however, with positives, which has been mentioned tonight, free transport, which the council would pay for, they not only would have saved that fireworks display, they would also have saved almost all the 70,000 that is not disputable, because it's a fact. And that saved money is going to do an awful lot for this town, because it will be spent correctly on needs that are obvious to all of us on all sides of this council. So I ask you, stop arguing about who cancelled what. We all know what the rhetoric was like. I mean, there was to me, it was like a clarion call of hate that emerged on social media, in so many areas of social media. I'm afraid I'm just a Facebook person, that'll do for me. However, for a company who had stepped forward to assist with a, feeling for the town council, feeling for the town residents, to put forward our fireworks display, to have them intimidated and abused by every sort of social media you can think of, was disgraceful. That is no way to treat any local company, or they won't be local for long, will they? So basically, that's what killed the fireworks display, whether it was going to be here or elsewhere. So let's not pander about and argue that this council was terrible and cancelled it, and that we had any intention of cancelling it. We didn't have any intention of cancelling it if we could have held onto it, which we could, for about 2 weeks before the rhetoric took hold and frightened off our only hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Lewis-Smith did make clear what the expenditure was. I think he did set that out in some detail, and also where the decision was made and who made it. I think he was clear on that. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate? Councillor Pallett. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oops. Mine's more of a personal, because I went to the fireworks. I love fireworks. I love anything. Christmas, fireworks, I love it all. I went 2 years ago, 4 months after having a hip operation, with a disabled friend. When I came to get out at the end, I struggled, and so did my friend. We went to different places to try and get through, and we was nearly knocked over, both of us. And in the end, we had to wait, and we didn't get out of there till very, very late. I felt intimidated. I felt scared, not only for me, but for my friend. How many other disabled people trying to get out on that night? Because there's so many people, there's 20,000 people trying to get through little junctions on the castle grounds. I think what we've done is the best thing. If it went to Statfold, that would have been ideal. But now it's been cancelled altogether, nothing to do with us. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the best thing that we should have done. It's safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Park. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate before I bring Councillor Dean in? Thank you. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't know where to begin. I'm just so disturbed by the fact that we've come to this, that actions on a councillor's Facebook page has brought us to where we are today. Just on the budget, there seems to be selective amnesia on the process that we go through. Indeed, a process that we go through every year, And it's even more amazing that councillors opposite have been doing this for far longer than we have. So they're well aware of the process that we go through and how they can obtain the information about what's going to be there. The budget, as everybody knows, is open to all councillors, and Councillor Smith has given you the dates of when all those meetings took place. We've talked about the budget in the budget meetings about cutting back on our spending on non-statutory stuff and funding partners who can help us to continue some of those well-loved events. I do take exception to the idea that just because the fireworks have not been able to go ahead, that we would for some reason cancel everything else. I think that's scaremongering, and that's quite disappointing to hear that said, because one thing hasn't been able to go ahead, that consequently we're going to throw everything out. When Councillor Smith first brought forward the new proposals for the firework event, it did turn out not just to be about the money. There's been increasing concern about the appropriateness of holding this event on the castle grounds. I've heard from many people about how unsafe they felt with the numbers that are there in the castle ground, and even around the egg, with people spilling out from the path onto the roadway. And as Councillor Smith said at last year's event, one of our staff ended up with a broken collarbone from the crush. And also, as Councillor Smith has stated, we've been told that people want to see that money spent on other things. They want their streets cleaned. They want the money spent on the areas where they live. And as Councillor Wells said, you know, if we had an option, we would be spending lots more on the DFG, which makes life-changing things for people. A point that I'm really disturbed about is how much time our officers have spent putting this together, building relationships with those partners, getting an event together at a local location. It's not a million miles away, it's a couple of miles down the road. This would have been a bigger, better event which would have highlighted local talent. It gave local vendors who normally attend the Castle Grounds event, they would have been able to have gone to the new event. As Councillor Smith said, they would have been there for hours. The potential for them to earn more money is obvious. And there was also that opportunity for the bus company to make some money from ferrying people about. One of my main problems with this is around people's rhetoric around Martin's Law. I can't understand how it can be dismissed. We know about it. It doesn't matter whether it comes in 2 years or 10 years. We know that it's a problem, and we know as a council that we have to take account of that. We know in the work that we've done around the town square, we've had to change things there to take account of Martin's Law. People may think some of the seating and everything is ugly, but it's all to do with keeping people safe. And this administration won't shy away from keeping people safe. If we get stick for it, if people don't like the idea that the fireworks aren't there anymore, I would rather that than we hold an event that at the end of it, something goes wrong and my only defence is, well, it's not law yet, so it doesn't matter whether we've done it. The information we have tells us that large events should take note of the legislation and act accordingly to protect our residents, and it's the right thing to do. So, have I got much time left? No. I was going to quote Reverend Little from Sunday, for those of us who were there, who talked about people working together in solidarity. And I just don't think that what's happening in this chamber today is about people working in solidarity. We really wanted the fireworks to go ahead. I know I've been an advocate for it not going ahead, but that's a personal thing. My group really wanted the fireworks to go ahead, as several have said, they love it. This experience, I think, has shown us the unpredictableness of Facebook, that it's not perhaps the place to ask questions of the council that you're actually a member of. And the people who were whipped up to criticise this decision, and ultimately, you know, the event was stopped, they didn't have access to the same facts as the council members. The other thing I really want to say, if I've got time, is I want to thank Hannah Pete and Karen Moss for all the work that they put in. They worked for months to put this together. I know the opposition has said it was all done behind closed doors, but we were working with businesses. We couldn't put stuff out until, you know, things were signed on the dotted line. Everybody is aware in this council chamber about commercial sensitivity. It wasn't up to us to be telling everybody what was happening, but councillors knew that there was a budget implication for this. So, yeah, I'm just really, really disturbed about some of the rhetoric that's coming back, and the thought that Martin's Law doesn't really matter because it's not a thing. So, as someone who wants to see the best in everyone, I really hope that what has happened wasn't the desired effect, the desired outcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. I gave a little bit of leeway there on the time. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be honest, I've sat and listened to what's been said tonight. I've received numerous questions from residents and so on, but Richard has kind of summed them all up, to be honest, in his motion, so there's been no need for that. We're here to basically make speeches more than and try and get a few points across. I must admit, it's rare I'll ever say this, but I actually completely agree with Councillor Sam Smith. I thought his speech was spot on. Jeremy, as usual, is a bit of a wordsmith. I've been watching him put that speech together. What I'd say, one of the things that gets me about sitting here and listening to this, it's what you call it, you only get good governance through scrutiny and opposition. If you can't handle being scrutinised and having an opposing set of views, then you'll make for a very poor council. Some of the stuff I've heard tonight has been really patronising, but we've sat here and listened to it, and I'll be honest, some of you have made some very good points, but some very good points have been made on this side as well. And what you've had is debate. Residents are kind of split. I don't know what the ratio is about how many who want the fireworks and how many who don't, but we're doing what our residents have asked us to do and debate this, and that's what we've been doing tonight. So that's basically all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. This is about debate that people can see, that is visible, and I think it's a good way to do it. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this debate?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak this evening, and I'm going to keep it short. Just before I get onto the actual debate itself, I'd just like to make a point of clarification. When people talk about the opposition, there are 4 oppositions over here. We're not all the same opposition. We might all sit together, but we're not necessarily all the same opposition. I'm sort of on the fence about the fireworks. Yes, I'm sad to see it go, but I do understand the reasonings behind it. And my gripe with it, if you like, is the communication aspects of it. We've sat in this chamber time and time again and talked about communication and how our communication with the public needs to improve. We've done it on various projects across the years, and I feel like we've let the public down again with the communication aspect of how this has been handled. Not necessarily how we've got here or the reasons why, but how it's been handled and how it's been communicated to the public. And all I would ask from the opposition is that we continue to look at better ways to communicate with the public and better ways to get the message out there to the public in a timely manner with the correct information and the facts that then avoids what we've seen throughout this whole process that we're at this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I echo those words about the importance of communication. It is really the most difficult and the most essential of skills. Does anyone else wish to speak on this debate before I move to vote?
Mr. Mayor, am I allowed to wrap the debate up as the proposer of the motion?
Yes.
Are we
yes,
at that point
yes.
now, do you think?
I think we may well be there. Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everybody for the debate and speeches that we've had this evening. It's interesting to be lectured by a fellow teacher about my use of English. I'm used to having to use quite guttural English most of the time, working with teenagers. I can't remember what you said, repetition. Yeah. Repetition, okay. We've heard a lot tonight. First of all, I am incredibly proud of what I've done. I am incredibly proud of calling out the controlling group. I have no conscience about what has happened. The only people I really feel sorry for are Laughing Bulldog events. Two young men, brilliant young men, who I know, set up this business to create events. And they deserve support and they deserve recognition for what they're trying to do. They are a brilliant couple of lads. However, because we didn't have transparency, because we didn't have openness, and because decisions were made, despite what the controlling group say, behind closed doors, December, I think, wasn't it? Because of those decisions, we are now at a point where when I ask legitimate questions, the response that we get back is it takes a while for officers to respond. That's fair enough. I have no issue with that. But then when I communicate with the public, based on the public communicating back with me and asking me questions about, is the fireworks cancelled? And I went, no, of course it's not. We'll never be cancelling the fireworks. It's a regular event. Why would we cancel it? And then, what was that, August? And I've heard reference tonight to decisions being made months ago. We could have debated this at one of the scrutiny committees behind closed doors as a confidential item. We needn't even have mentioned Laughing Bulldog events and Statfold Farm. We could have gone through the whole process of discussing and debating a review of the fireworks event. I've no issue with that. I said that at the start. And in proposing this motion, as you've seen tonight, and I said at the very beginning, this isn't about necessarily the fireworks. This is about a controlling group that is demonstrating arrogance and doesn't consult properly with the public, with fellow councillors, and with businesses. We've got business representatives here tonight, and there are many instances where they feel aggrieved by this controlling group's behaviour. But that's for another time. So, Mr. Mayor, in bringing this motion to a close, I thank you for your debate, for the way you've chaired it. It must have been, having been in your position on a couple of occasions, quite fraught to think that you've got to go through this process. I'd like to remind the residents of Tamworth, and I'm speaking to those residents, and the other thing, to be accused of political uprising or whatever the phrase was used because I'm up for election. Isn't an election held every year? Do we not see members of this chamber campaigning in the run-up to an election? Have you not looked at how I campaign for the residents of Tamworth tirelessly, month after month, year after year, and bring motions to this council chamber? The fact that there is an election in May is irrelevant. I am, in proposing this motion with the support of my colleagues, standing up for you, the residents of Tamworth, and the businesses. I'm not interested in what you guys think. I'm only interested in Tamworth. So far, since Monday of last week, I've turned down 4 TV interviews. Why did I turn down those TV interviews with the likes of ITV, BBC? because I was concerned about Laughing Bulldog events, about Stapfold Farm and the reputation of this council. So think on, controlling group. You've shown tonight that you care little for the people of Tamworth. I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, as I say, for chairing the meeting, and I take it we'll move to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. We can now move to vote. Okay, we can now move to the vote. So all those who are in favour of the motion, please show. You'd like a name vote? Thank you. So I have to read from this list of councillors, which is the smallest writing I have ever seen in my life. Okay, to go through them again one at a time when I call out your name, can you please respond? Councillor Craig Adams.
Against.
Councillor Nova Arkney.
Against.
Councillor Marie Bailey is absent. Christopher Bain, that's me, isn't it? Yes, I abstain. Councillor Ben Clark.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lee Clark.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Margaret Clark.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rosie Claymore.
For, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tina Clements.
For, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gareth Coates.
For, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Marion Couchman.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sarah Daniels. Councillor Carol Dean.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Stephen Doyle.
For, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor David Foster.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Helen Hadley.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Thomas J. I quite know what to put there, I must confess. Councillor Richard Kingston.
For, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ken Norkey.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jeremy Oates.
For.
Councillor Pat Pallett.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ben Price.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis Smith.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sam Smith.
For, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Natalie Statham.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Summers.
For.
Councillor Paul Turner.
For.
Councillor Jan Wardrop.
For, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Andy Wells.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Lee Wood.
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so that motion is lost. So with that vote on the motion, I will close the meeting at 7:38. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. My fellow councillors, officers of the council, and of course, members of the public, thank you for coming. And for those watching on YouTube, the live stream will now close. Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the work.
Worshipful, the Mayor of Tamworth.